Hi, my name's Chris Connor with Franchise Marketing Systems, and during this presentation, we'll be talking through the differences between buying a franchise and starting your own business, and what the two options look like, some of the positives, negatives that are associated with either option, and a bit about how franchising works when you're considering investing in a franchise. So I've been doing this type of work now in franchise development for 20 years, and I've worked with a whole bunch of different types of businesses and industry segments, and I have been able to see how different people have approached the market, some of the good and bad choices that people have made in investing in franchises and starting new businesses. So a little bit of what we'll talk about are some of my experiences and some processes that I'd recommend you could use or implement when you're approaching entrepreneurship, maybe for the first time, or the franchise industry for the first time. So one of the first things that I recommend that you do is do a self-evaluation. Figure out what you enjoy doing, figure out what your goals are, what you'd like to get out of a business, what your driving forces are behind starting a new business. And it could be something as simple as you'd like to make more money, and that's okay. It could be that you'd like to have more freedom and flexibility, lifestyle implications, maybe freedom to choose where you want to work if you've been transferred in a job or something, and staying in your town or where your family lives might be the driving factor. Define what those are and do an honest, legitimate evaluation of where you are and why you're looking at doing this. Odds are you'll make better choices in how you choose what business or franchise to look at if you know what's underneath the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. First, we'll go through a small business overview and how that choice looks if you decide to start a business on your own. And then we'll talk about how franchising works and what that choice might look like if you decided to invest in a franchise model. At a very high level, franchising should give you a proven system. A franchise model should give you a platform, a business plan, guidance. The franchisor should be there to help you with running and operating the business. They should have enough time in the industry where they've made the mistakes and they've figured out what worked, what didn't, and as a franchisee, you can benefit from that experience and that blueprint that they should be giving to you. They should have some element of a team in place and some element of economies of scale that you can benefit from. The good franchises out there in the market are looking at you as if you're part of their team and part of their family, and you're benefiting from that support, infrastructure, and guidance that you get by joining them. On the other side, if you start your own business, you're kind of going at it alone. You are going at it alone. You're figuring out your own path. You're paving your own channel, and it comes with a lot of control. You have complete control. Comes with personal recognition. I find entrepreneurs are generally given a lot more individual recognition when you start your own business than if you join a franchise. And the question I always like to ask is, how many of us know by name someone who owns a McDonald's? And you really can't think of many in most cases, because when you buy a franchise, you're joining a brand. You're becoming part of that brand, where when you start your own business, it's more about you. It's more personal recognition. You have complete freedom when you start your own business, whereas in a franchise model, you are subject to the franchisor's rules and guidelines and model. So these come back again to defining who we are and what drives us. And some people make horrible franchisees because they don't like following rules. They can't stand being told what to do. They're bouncing off the walls as soon as they get into a franchise model, where other people thrive in a franchise engagement and really do well when they're given those rules and that guidance and that plan, and they're great at executing it. Again, figuring out who you are is the first step of this, and what drives you, what motivates you, and which one of these environments you might do better in. Once you've gone through this initial evaluation, I recommend writing a real business plan. Get some help. There are plenty of organizations out there, like SCORE is through the SBA if you're in the US. In Canada, they have a whole number of resources that are put out through the government. My point is that whether you want to pay someone to help you with writing a plan, and there's many versions of consultants who can help you write a plan, or go to one of these resources and they're literally free. You just need to go ask. And they can help you write a plan. They can give you hopefully an objective third-party perspective on you and your plan, and probably bring up things that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Write this plan with the intention of figuring out how to make any of your ideas proven wrong. Try to poke holes in whatever your plan is. If I'm looking at opening up a restaurant business, why shouldn't I do that? What market am I getting into? And is it too crowded? Is it too competitive? If you get help from someone, odds are you'll miss some of you will help avoid some of the colossal mistakes that people make when they start a new business. And we as people just tend to get emotional. We get attached to an idea and we jump before we really understand what the consequences are. And if we write a legitimate, real business plan, get help from someone, we'll avoid some of those major issues. Maybe one of the most important things out of this plan is you can help define the financial side of it. Every business requires capital. Shouldn't be a big surprise there, but some businesses require a whole lot more capital than other businesses. So if I go into business and I'm looking at my hard dollar expenses that I need to open up, let's use the restaurant as an example. I have construction costs. I have equipment, I have signage, I have food I have to buy to open up. Those would be my hard costs that once I have invested in all of those elements, my doors are open, I can turn the key, and customers can walk in and buy my food. The thing about most businesses, if not all of them, is they don't make money day 1 or 2, maybe even month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to take some time before you get to a level of profitability where the business can feed itself. If you go into business with zero working capital and no reserves, odds are you're dead before you even started. And a lot of times when I'm working with people and looking at their plans and helping them understand this whole concept, that's the number one reason for failure. They have not put together a realistic plan that allowed them to appropriately deal with the need for working capital and the time frame that it takes for a business to get to cash flow. So making sure that we have this financial model in place, making sure that we have a plan in place is probably the most important part of this. But also I'd look at some other things. Number one, what is our value proposition? We as people all have some skill sets, we have some experience, we have some background that we bring to the market. And let's just say I'm a CPA and I've been in the financial planning industry, I've worked with numbers a long time. Why not first look at industries that leverage my skill set? Let's start there. And maybe it's that we want to get away from that industry, and that's okay too. But what skill sets do we bring that could apply to a different industry? And how can we leverage that? And how can we benefit from that? Number two, we need to understand what the opportunity is. A lot of people, a lot of investors jump into businesses, again, because they're emotionally tied to it. They love the product. They enjoy eating the food. They get into an industry that is so saturated and has so many mature, established brands in it that their odds of success are just not very high. So make sure we understand what the consumer opportunity looks like. Are people buying this product or service? Is there room for more? Is there growth in this consumer population, and do we see the demand going up or down? This should be a significant aspect of what business we choose to get into. Number three, do a competitive analysis. Understand who you're going up against. Make sure that we know how do we stack up. What's our unique selling proposition? And if what we have cannot stand out against competing offerings, probably not the best way to go into business. What do we do that's unique, better, and compelling to a consumer that would justify them coming in and buying our product or service and then making that buying choice. Make sure that we can answer that effectively and that it stands up. Number 4, we need to define our marketing and our selling model. I have met some phenomenal chefs, some phenomenal operators, people who are great technicians. They are very good at what they do, and they cannot figure out how to market or sell it. If we don't have a plan to get customers in the door or calling us and paying us for our services or products, what we do is of very little value as a business. We have to have a model for this. If we're looking at franchising, the franchisor should be giving us this model. That should be a big part and a significant part of the value that they offer as a franchisor. If we're doing this on our own, we need to have a plan. We need to have a model for generating leads, for creating engagements with customers, and ultimately for closing new business. All of this has to be defined before we open up our doors. Number 5, and I put this after marketing, we need to know how we run the business, how we operate day to day. How do we staff it? How do we deliver the food or the service or the product to the customer consistently and manage the business in a way that still can be profitable? And last but not least, make sure the numbers work. Make sure that whatever this business is projected to do matches up with your goals and your financial aspirations, and also that you have the money to do it. I have talked to so many people who have been interested in getting into businesses, and after a little bit of digging, I've been able to help them understand they don't have the money to do it. Save yourself the time, energy, and heartache of understanding your investment capacity before you really dig into businesses. And if your heart is set on a business that requires $1 million in capital to open up, realistically, in today's environment, you might be able to get a loan with 10 or 20% down, but that means you need to have $100,000 or $200,000 in cash, and you probably need to have a 700 credit score. You need to have some assets that you can use against that loan. It's best to know these things up front, because if you start going down that path and you have $50,000 instead of the $200,000 you need, your credit score isn't strong enough, then you can start weeding out options that don't fit and look at businesses that do make sense. And it makes it easier for you to narrow that search more efficiently and, again, with less heartache and wasted time and energy on things that maybe weren't an option from the beginning. A couple of statistics that I think are really relevant. So I am a huge proponent for entrepreneurship, completely believe in small business ownership. And I like to tell people that I really think this is the case. There is a business out there for everyone. Every one of us has the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. Some of us, it may be better to look at franchising, and others it might make more sense to look at starting our own business as a pure startup. But there is an opportunity for all of us. And nothing is more rewarding, nothing is more engaging, and nothing is more empowering than finding a business that allows us to make this transition into entrepreneurship. So there's always a degree of risk versus reward. I think everything in life comes with some element of risk versus reward. I think the key is when you look at business and starting a business, it's understanding what that risk is and making sure that the reward is significant enough to justify that risk. The more planning we do, the more market research we do, and the more we understand what we're getting into, the easier it is to figure out what risk is worth or how this equation works, and whether it's worth the risk for you to get into the business. The really bad risk is the risk we don't even know exists, and we jump into something without having any comprehension of what could possibly go wrong. Do the planning, understand the math, and then you can make a better decision. When you start a new business, the failure rate is generally much higher than if you buy into a franchise, and it should be that way. When you buy a franchise, you're paying someone fees in order to avoid some of that obvious risk, and in order to get a plan, in order to get direction. Where when you start a business on your own, you don't have that. You don't have the support, you don't have the blueprint, and as a result, you have a higher rate of failure. Generally speaking, the age ranges for entrepreneurship have gone up. I thought this was really cool. Came off the SBA website. But the average age of a new business owner, entrepreneur in the U.S., over 50 years old, which that's a little bit surprising to me because you hear about high school kids starting tech companies more than anything. But nowadays, it can be for anyone. It can be this transition into business ownership is not just about being too young to not worry about risk or anything. Owning your own business is hard work. Average entrepreneur, as average business owner, works almost 60 hours a week, according to the SBA, but 90% satisfaction rate. And I think that's one of the funny things you could look at when you compare owning your own business versus working for someone. People tend to enjoy doing what they do when they own it because it's yours, it's your baby, you have passion for it, you have energy for it, and who wouldn't be excited about something when you build it more larger and more successful? It's yours. You're reaping those rewards. So let's talk a bit about the franchise model. Number one, a franchisee pays a fee to the franchisor, and generally that fee is anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000 that you would pay for the rights to get access to the franchise model. Important note here is that that fee does not get you anything tangible. It gets you the right to use the name in the system. Once you have paid that fee, you then need to invest in opening the business. So this would be, if you're a restaurant again, you need to build the location. You need to buy the inventory. You need to hire staff. You need to open up the actual location itself. That fee just gets you the rights to use the brand. Once you're open, you then pay a royalty percentage, and royalties in franchising will be anywhere from 4 to 12. I've seen royalties go as high as 15 or 16%. Key is that number is on gross revenue. So you are paying that number, let's say it's 10% royalty. You are paying that royalty back whether you're making money or not. It doesn't matter if the business is profitable. You owe that royalty number off the top gross revenues. In addition to that, there's an advertising fee that most franchises have, which might be half up to maybe a couple of percent. That is on top of your royalty percentage that needs to be paid concurrently. And royalties are either collected weekly or monthly. Some franchisors will charge a markup on products that you have to buy from them, the required purchases. And that's okay, but you need to know that up front so you can build it into your financial plans, make sure that your model still recognizes the profitability you're looking for, and that the markups are fair and reasonable, and still that you can get a better deal by buying through them than you could by going to the open market. The nice thing about franchising, one of the nice things, is that you can do a lot of due diligence and research and planning up front that is really hard to do when you're starting your own business. The reason that's the case is, for one, you can use other franchisees as reference points. And who better to go to than someone who's done this before? They've executed the model, they've bought franchises from the franchisor you're talking with. They've either failed or succeeded using that model, and you can interview them, you can talk to them. Their contact information needs to be in the disclosure document that you're signing with them. And as a franchisee, you have this access to information that should allow you to plan and be more effective in executing your new business development model. You need to use it, and that's one of the things that I see people kind of skip over. It's the whole purpose of franchising is to give you this information. You need to read the disclosure document that every franchisor has to give you, and you need to use the information that's available to you to help make a better decision. If you don't read it and you don't make the phone calls and you don't do the research, you're not really benefiting from what the franchise model should be able to provide to you. In a good franchise company, the franchisor is doing a lot of things for the franchisee. They're a business coach, they're a mentor, they're helping them make buying decisions and in management decisions, hiring decisions. Everything that you do day in and day out, the franchisor should be there to help you with. They should be helping you with marketing and sales and new business development. They should have resources when it comes to branding, collateral materials, all the things that you'd have to figure out on your own. The franchisor should be doing that for you or giving you support doing it. They should be helping you with operations and management, compliance, advice when it comes to how to manage your business and be Be safe, be responsible. They should be helping you with financial management, things like budget, spending, how you're running your overall financial planning to match up with your goals. The franchisor should be doing this with you and for you. And last but not least, they should just be someone who's there to help you and sort of a shoulder to cry on when things are tough and maybe you need help in personal elements as well. The good franchise companies that I've worked with and seen and been a part of, they treat their franchisees like family, and they treat them like they're all part of the same team. They're doing everything they can to help them be successful. And you, as a prospective franchise buyer, will be able to figure this out if you call on the existing franchisees and ask them, hey, what's the relationship been? How have they helped you? Have they been there for you? Have they done the things they said they would do? All the stuff that you would want to know before you get in the relationship. Use the tools that come that are presented to you as part of investing in a franchise that give you the ability to make better buying decisions. I wouldn't say there's one, overall, I wouldn't say that there's one that's better than the other. Starting your own business on your own with no guidance, no support, that model works great for some people, not so well for others. Franchising, same thing. Some people it's a fit, other people it doesn't make sense. You need to go through a process, whether you can use some of these things that I've recommended or your own process. Don't jump too quickly and make a quick emotional decision on whichever route you go. Take some time to write a plan. Get some help from someone who can give you direction. Our company, Franchise Marketing Systems, you certainly should feel free to reach out to me. My name is Chris Connor again with Franchise Marketing Systems. You can reach me on our website, www.fmsfranchise.com. fmsfranchise.com. We'd love to hear from you, love to help you, and best of luck in your entrepreneurial journey.